Hi, Mary.
Okay.
Recording in process. Everybody hit your okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the March edition of the Charitable Roundtable. I am Mary Jenkins, one of your leads for the Charitable Roundtable. I am excited to have you here. We are in for a treat today. I have already said that my whole day was made as a result of what I experienced this morning, having the opportunity to find out a little bit more about today's speaker. When I say you are in for a treat, you absolutely are. So, but before we really get started, I want to take a moment. We normally have this thing of hearing all the voices when Brian is here, but we want to make certain that we give enough time to our speaker, because I promise you the time is going to go by fast and you're going to want to ask questions. And so if you would please, in the chat, add your name, your nonprofit that you're associated with, or if you are a friend of a nonprofit, feel free to also put a little summary about the nonprofit, and about you, your contact information. If you can put that in the chat, that would be fantastic. That way we can have it on record. So, as you notice, Frank today is a picture of Frank. And he shared that he is in Michigan. But he is the master behind making certain that the recordings happen and that they get uploaded to the YouTube channel. YouTube channel? Did you know we had a YouTube channel? If you did not know that we had a YouTube channel, now you know. We do have one. I ask that each of you, after today's call, if you would go on YouTube and search the Charitable Roundtable and please subscribe to our channel. We want to make certain that we want to get that live. I had the privilege of being your speaker for last month, which was absolutely fantastic. It went by too fast. And that's why I want to make certain that when we transition into the start, that we start right away. Part of our team leads are, of course, Frank is our visionary, who 10 years ago came up with the concept of giving back in a different way, created a space for nonprofits as well as people that support nonprofits to come together, and created the Charitable Roundtable. And so, as you can see on the back of Crystal Johnson's little page, that she has a 10-year anniversary. I don't have a green screen, so it doesn't look right on mine, but we get to figure it out. And so we are in celebration of our 10th year. And so Crystal Johnson really is one of our other masterminds behind what it is that we do, because it takes a team. And for the longest amount of time, Frank was doing it by himself, and he was doing a great job in person. And then, of course, pandemic happened. And when that happened, we had to shift. Frank's initial shift was to do hybrid. And so he was having a video camera in the location where he would set everything up, because there were some people that would show up in person, but then there were other people that were virtually. And that got to be a whole lot. And so, then when that happened, we were like, we got to make another shift. And so we shifted to being virtual. Being virtual made it possible for us to engage with people, not just in Columbus, Ohio, but actually across the country. And we've even had times where we've had people from other parts of the world tune in. And so it is an exciting time. This is a safe space for nonprofits. Nonprofits can come in, and if there's a topic or something that you want more insight on, put it in the chat, because we want to make certain that the information that we provide to you is relevant for the birth, development, and growth of the vision that you have. So with that, I'm going to make the transition to get ready for today's speaker. Today's speaker is Miss Genevieve Piturro. I can go into it. I'm telling you, my whole life was just blown away this morning, as a result of learning more about her. She's not only part of the planning team for the Charitable Roundtable, but she is an amazing person. She's the founder of a nonprofit, and she will go into details about it. But she also did the one thing that I don't know how I'm going to do, and that is to pass the baton. She did that. And when she did that, it opened up a whole new world for her. And so when you hear what she has to say, you will be amazed. Her topic is incredible. And so I'm going to present to some and introduce to others my beloved Genevieve Piturro.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Wow, that was beautiful. I don't know what to say, but thank you. And it's nice to see and meet some of you for the first time, and some of you are friends. Thank you for joining us. And I know we all have stories, and that's what this is about. And it's taken me more than 20 years to really understand why and how Pajama Program's been successful and the part that our story had to do with it. And I know all of you have stories, and I'd love this to be participatory. So at the end, I might pick on you, but throughout, if you have something to say, a question, or you want to offer an example, please just interrupt me. Please just start talking and you have the floor, because it's more fun when we share. So we can share during and after. So
So
I'm
do you
going.
want us to be off mute?
Yeah, you could be off mute as long as there's no background noise or anything, that's fine. Or you can put on mute and come off mute and just say, I got a question. Up to you.
Okay.
So, how to tell your story and move the world, because I think that's why you're doing what you're doing. I didn't realize that we would have that power when we followed our hearts, but that is the power of following our hearts. And it's the power of the love we feel for what we saw. We all found something, saw something, heard something that moved us off our day to day into a new world. And I know I speak for me, and I know I speak for some of you. I know it totally, sometimes it just totally takes you by surprise. You're going along and you're following what you thought was your dream, and your head's leading you and everything is fine. And then boom, something happens. And it's the story that happens to us that we can share and inspire others, because that's really what happens when you tell your story. And that's happened to me for years. And I thank God every day that sometimes my story can inspire someone else to move off their path to another more fulfilling path. So let's see if I can move this here. Okay, so I have three things that I'm going to ask you to understand. The first one is, understand this. The world is driven by emotion. Giving, giving money, giving time, giving attention is very emotional, especially when there are so many distractions these days. So your story must be heartfelt, compelling, and emotional. You need to do this. We need to make people root for us. So make people root for you when you're thinking about the parts of your story that start, middle, and end. Through your examples, take people from your journey's dark to the light. So a lot of us have a personal story that may or may not relate to exactly those we're serving's plight, but whether or not it does, we have a story that took us from one life to this new life. And it may or may not be the same plight, but your story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a dark and a light. Make your audience, whether it's one or a room full, feel the pain of the situation that you're trying to fix. They need to feel the pain. It's like whenever you've heard the old salespeople say, make the potential buyer feel the pain and then show them the product or the service that'll take away the pain. Similarly, our stories are our best tool. And if people can feel through our words, our body language, our pauses, they can feel the pain, then they can feel the relief when you show them that part of what you've come to learn is helping them, and want to ask for their support in helping you do that, give that relief, and show them how they will feel by changing lives with you. So it's all about emotion. It's all about how you make them feel. You've already felt it, and I'm asking you to feel it when you tell your story. But if you are growing, whether you're at the beginning, the middle, or the tail end, and maybe passing the baton, it's all about how you make your audience feel about the potential of supporting you and your story, and also continuing to tell your story for you. If they feel it, they will walk away with that memory really ingrained in them, and they'll want to share. Your story, plus the messages, plus the people you can inspire and who will rally for you and root for you, will give you the funding, will give you the enthusiasm, will give you the support to make an impact. And that's why we're in this business, to make an impact, to make a change in the world. So your story is most powerful when you're authentic and vulnerable. You and your purpose are relatable. You deliver your story with heart. Now, it takes practice, because when you're telling your story to one or many, you probably are already seeing what parts of your story resonate. What parts of your story do people comment on? What really makes them feel emotional? And if you take notes, that's how you can grow that connection, because chances are, if it moves 1, 2, or 3 people, it will move 1, 2, or 300 people. So take a note of the story elements and where there is that resonance with what you're saying and what you've been through, and where your audience says, oh, me too. Oh my gosh. Wow. Those are the keys in your story that are touching the hearts of everybody. So I'll tell my story in 2 versions. This is your elevator pitch, right? This is mine. So if I were only telling someone my story and there were no aids, like I'm on a stage, which you will have both. If you have not already, you will have both. So this is without the support. I always wanted to be in TV. Actually, I wanted to be Mary Tyler Moore. From being a kid, I watched her. I snuck down and I watched her. And that was my dream, to be in TV. So I was for 18 years. Yeah. And I just loved it. And I was geared up for that corporate office. And I was excited. And I was 24/7 workaholic. And one day in my apartment, I heard a voice in me. Now, I was single, so I had nobody with me there in that evening time. And going about my evening, and I heard this voice in me that I'd never heard that voice ask me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And it stopped me cold. It really, really freaked me out. I realized, wow, in 30 years, I'm going to be more tired, more burnt out, still alone, and I'll have pretty things because I'll have made a good living. But what else is there? There's got to be something else. And for some reason, my heart was leading. I let it lead. I remembered a TV show on the news where the police and social workers were taking children out of a home because of the neglect and the abuse that they were experiencing in that home that was supposed to be protective. I started reading to them in shelters. The shelters welcomed me in at night, in my business suit. And I read, and I was falling in love with these kids, different ones all the time. One night I followed to see where they were going to sleep after I read stories. And I saw them scrambling onto futons and cots in the same soiled, tight clothes that they had worn in when the police and the social workers brought them. And it broke my heart. And I had visions of my mom putting 4 of us kids to bed, and the stories and the laughter and the love and the pajamas. And I'm looking at the scene. They were in these clothes that didn't fit. And it was all wrong. My mind was all jumbled up. And as they gave me a push, the staff, because I guess I was sort of fixated on this scene, for some reason, I can remember like it was yesterday, the words came out of my mouth, can I bring pajamas next time? And they thought that was lovely. They said, nobody ever thinks of pajamas. I brought pajamas. And when I started giving them out, a little girl was so afraid of me, so afraid of me. The end of the evening, when she wouldn't take anything at all, I tried one more time. And that's when she whispered to me, what are pajamas, miss? And that was that was life altering. I couldn't believe that that question came from this little girl about 6 years old who was just lopsided pigtails and a mess. And I just wanted to pick her up and stuff her in my jacket and take her home. And I became obsessed. And I just started bringing the pajamas not only there, but to every shelter I could get the name of. And I went into financial debt. It was a big mess. And I saw everything collapsing around me. I was lying to bosses. I was leaving early, and I wasn't the same workaholic person. And I knew I'd get fired if I didn't leave. And I didn't care. And I just kept doing it. And I was obsessed. So many things happened, dark and light, good and bad. But resilience, support, and people listening and people feeling that they too could make bedtime a little more loving, because that's what it was about for these children, not the pajamas, not the material, the love that they were missing and so desperate for, the loneliness they felt. Pajama Program is now 24 years old with 40 some chapters and 8 million pajamas and books provided around the US. And those are the marks of my story and how I can tell it briefly, longer, without the full spectrum of AIDS. So I just wanted to show you how to put the markers of your story. You know, there shouldn't be more than 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There shouldn't be more than 10 markers, ups and downs, honestly, and the way you tell it, that can give you the skeleton of making it shorter if you need to, making it longer. But once you start to tell it, if you haven't already, gauge the response and where the audience is feeling you. And that's when you'll know where to put your emphasis and what to pick and choose when you're telling it the next time. So the longer version is more fun when you have a chance. So when I talk about, I wanted to be Mary Tyler Moore, I actually found this picture of me, and I just knew that's me as an executive. And I just knew that this was meant to be. I was meant to be Mary Tyler Moore. And then one night I heard, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And this is a question everybody needs to ask themselves. And when I use a slide, if you can use something that is visual, use it. Find a piece that is relatable. Find a piece that makes people think. A question would be great in your story. Did you ever think this would happen to you? I never thought this would happen to me. Anything that is in your story, they're all personal, so I'm not familiar with every possible question or statement you can use, but find something and pause on it, because it will grab people. So this is what works a lot of times for me. People want to think about their next 30 years. They've probably never thought about that. So in the 30 years, you can see, I started with handfuls of pajamas, people doing drives, just wonderful community people, kids doing service projects, sharing notes like the one from Jason. These are the first PJs I've ever owned. When he sent in that note to me, that broke my heart and filled my heart at the same time. And in time, the more people you tell, the more emotional you allow yourself to be, because being vulnerable is not easy for a lot of us. I was from the corporate world. I was never showing my emotion. And it was very difficult for me to drop that wall, because I would tear up every time I talked about that little girl. It was really, really hard. But the more you tell people and you embrace that part of the story, that's what other people will feel. And that's what will connect you more than the facts. A woman from Parenting Magazine called and said, do you have a few minutes to answer some questions if we can write a little article? And I was thrilled. Well, that article turned into thousands of boxes that invaded my one bedroom, totally invaded it, and started the momentum of learning how the story resonated enough for people to want to start sharing it beyond their immediate family and their community. And she was sharing it with the United States of America, all the moms who read Parenting Magazine. Then we all, well, maybe we all don't, but some of us remember 2008 crash, the economy, nonprofits went through a very, very scary time. Very scary. There was a lot of what this guy was doing. A lot of us were afraid of going under, and some did. Some did. There is a story I'm going to tell you in a little while that relates to Black Monday for us, but it was very, very scary. But I couldn't stop. I had made a promise to a woman who worked in a shelter when I went there with pajamas and books, maybe the second or third time to the same shelter. She said to me, I'm so glad you came back when you said you would, because you don't know how many people say they will and they don't. Every time I remember that, it chokes me up because it's so true. Our lives are busy. People mean it when they say it. And it never hit me as hard as when she said that to me. And from that moment on, I vowed never, never to let those children down. Never. And I tell that all the time because that was the moment that got me through the recession. And I said to our board, we cannot let these children down. We got through and had a wonderful couple of years. And we all know what happened. There we are. Everything changed a few years ago. And there was more of what that man was doing. And then there was a lot of what this woman's doing. Another scary time. Just to illustrate the ups and the downs of trying to sustain not only your own bread and butter, but the promise that you've made to the people that you're serving, to the lives that you're changing, because your heart is 100% in it, even more than, the bread and milk you need for yourself. It's to do something for those who have stolen your heart. Keep telling your story through the good times and especially through the bad times, because your story has the power to make miracles happen. You never know who is going to hear you, and you want to make sure you know what is relatable to the people you're talking to, because somebody called. And I couldn't have expected it, though my husband, I did marry somebody during this. He's a spiritual teacher, and he actually taught me how to meditate and took me to a park bench and asked me what would change everything, what would let you breathe, that pajama program would have a future. And I said, be an Oprah show, but everybody wants to be on an Oprah show. And he had me visualize it. And he said, keep talking, keep telling people the story. It's gonna reach, if not Oprah, someone. And it did. And I got a call from a producer one day, and I was by myself in our reading center. And a woman called and said, hi, I'm so-and-so from the Oprah Winfrey Show. Do you have a minute? And I'll never forget, do you have a minute? I think so. And it worked out. And there was a big surprise. And if you're interested, the video is on my website. And also, Oprah put it out again a couple months ago. So it is on YouTube, this episode. And you can see it on my website or YouTube. Keep telling your story. So as I said, the visual is just a good way to end a presentation when you're telling your story with different parts that you have spoken about, illustrated. So your single idea and your voice, the way you speak and talk and highlight the ups and downs and tell some personal experiences, amplifies the voice of one person into a real momentum to transforms, and it transforms not only those you plan to change, but you probably know the people that are joining you to help those you're serving, their lives are changing too. And that's the dual purpose of sharing your heart and your story with people, not only to gain support and funding to continue, but you can't do it alone, and nor do you want to. You want people to stand with you, and you want to also open their hearts and transform them and give them an opportunity to find purpose the way you did, because there are so many people out there who are living without meaning or purpose. And when you show up, see, it's going to make me cry, but it's okay. You just, Mary, I know Mary cries, and I love her for that, because that's what is connecting you. That and saying, I don't know. Those two things, the vulnerability, the emotional part of you, and the honesty, admitting mistakes and saying when you don't know something will connect you. And the whole point of telling your story in a compelling way is that, to connect with people and to give them an opportunity to find purpose with you.
Genevieve,
Yes.
can you go back one? So you're talking about sharing our story, and that being vulnerable. I was actually at a presentation one time, and I had a woman say to me that I shouldn't cry, because she interpreted that as like a performance versus sharing from your heart. So when you say vulnerability, are you recommending that whatever way we are vulnerable, that we show it? Can you expound on that just a little bit?
Yeah. I don't think you should worry about somebody saying you're acting unless you are acting. And I don't think you are acting. I think that, I don't know, have most people said that to you?
No,
Okay, then I wouldn't give her any attention.
this was when I first started, and I was like, when I really started sharing, because it got to a point where I was like, I've got to talk about this. I mean, it didn't work because I speak from my heart, and I am an emotional person. So even if I try, when I tried it, not, it don't happen. So it's part of it. But to have someone actually say that, what, I don't know if anyone else has ever heard anything like that or anything similar, or if they're wondering like at what level of vulnerability should you be, or is there a level?
No, I think you should just be you. I mean, when I started, I put a wall up because I didn't want to cry. And my husband was the one, I would tell him all the time. I would say, I don't know if I can speak in front of people because I'm going to cry. And he said, cry, then just cry. And I think people are craving that connection. I'm not saying don't be able to control yourself. Take a pause. Sometimes that connects you more than the tears coming. A lot of times I will stop and I will take a pause, and people will feel that, and you can hear a pin drop in the room. You can feel, I paused before, right? Just a couple of minutes ago. I didn't let the tears come. I could have, but I paused, and I felt that was enough emotion to take me through to the next time. But sometimes I cry, and sometimes I see people crying in the audience. That makes me cry. Just be you, be real. Don't worry about that one person.
Yeah. Alan has his hand up.
Yes, Alan.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna shock a lot of people. I actually grew up in Compton, California, as a foster child, and I'm gonna pause because I will get emotional. I understand the children, the 6 children and 6 brothers and sisters. 2 of them, one is no longer with us. Her name was Ivana. I put her name out there. She was taken out of this world by her pimp. But when the day came that when I was about 12 or 14, I'm 55 now, and I remember they took away my then brother Nobel. He was devastated because that was his real sister. My mother told me at 14 that we were all adopted, and because I'm a Leo and I don't know, they basically told me that all my other brothers and sisters looked toward me as the one to hold up the rest of the group. That's kind of where my turning point was. My father was a foster father, and my mother told me I was really not the real foster real child like the rest of them. And I'll get to the 10 points you're talking about. That actually was a turning point of me of doing what I'm doing as a master connector. U.S. Army 13 Bravo, proud veteran. But believe it or not, I met Lou Grant on the Mary Tyler Moe. And that wasn't the Mary Tyler Moe show. I did actual work from 12 to about 15. And I met Lou Grant and I said, "Do you know who you are? You're Lou Grant." He said, "Do you know who you are?" And it was for a brief moment. I got in trouble because I was talking. I was a background actor. I should not have done talking, but I met him. So I know about the Mary Tyler Moe show and I know about the crying and emotions because at some point in our life we take and we reach out in others. And that started me on a long path to become going into when almost became, I was on 90210 the years. My wife says she saw me on Casting Wendy. Acting didn't work out, but I fast forward to the military, spent Army in 87 to 90. And then in 1990, I got out honorably. Well, 5 years later, got out because I was still on hold. Honorably discharged in 95, met my wife in 2000. Got some things happen with that. And then 2007, she told me about this thing called mental illness. And I didn't know what that was. I knew that maybe I possibly suffered from it, but I do know that she grew up in the Mormon church and, she's German and Irish. So she's, I look where I am, what kind of situation we deal with on a regular basis. It's the elephant in the room. But I told her that in 17, 18, 19, 20, she lost her mental health cousin, then aunt, then uncle, and then brother was hit and killed in 2020, then the pandemic. So 24, our identity was stolen. So all this is happening. But I bring all to say the vulnerability. My wife and I don't have children. Not because we can't, because she told me that she doesn't want to bring a child into the world that has mental illness. Now, because I'm a big kid myself, I probably was just like, okay, well, what do I do? So I'm to the world, I'm big on, meaning I love the kids. Love the kids. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. Yes, I was a mouse. Took his pictures. I was a summer counselor. And I understand that I've saw children from around the world. So what is my point in bringing home? Genevieve, what you're doing with the pajama concept is so life-changing. So many kids around the world. That's why I'm here, because of Kurt, who's not here, but he knows that I come, and I knew that I was coming for a reason today. Each one of you have been blessed by your story today. I know, gentlemen, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to just take a little bit longer and just say thank you. I'm here to be of service to each one of you, and it's your story and your vision and your purpose of why
Thank
I
you,
do
Al.
what I do. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Alan, I just want to say that the one thing that you said that stopped me, and I want to encourage you not to run over that line, because that is heavy and in a good way, is that when it was your mother who said, now you have to step up. This is the turning point, you said. And when you were a kid and your mom said that to you, you have to step up. Wow. I mean, that in the middle of that whole scene, you were given this huge responsibility. That is something that stopped my heart for a minute. And I want you to know that if you didn't know that, that is a big pause for people to think about being you in that moment.
Yeah, and just to let you know that she heavily went up in 2014, and it was the same kind of year that this unfortunate Upton Ball shooting that happened with my wife and I. But I say that because my true mother I never met. Of course, my name is Alan, but people say, "Hey, Holmes, King Arthur, Sherlock," got all kind of things. But she told me my real name was Dwayne, and talked to his friend yesterday. He said, "You don't look like a Dwayne." I said, that's why I'm asking. I just zoom all over the place. But my true mama I never met. So when I get on these things, I'm like, "Are you, or do you know my mama?" So I have a very strange sense of humor. I'm a big
No,
kid.
it's Alan, it's wonderful. I'm going to talk about being funny, because the wow and the drama and the heartbreak and the funny both endear you to, then people see both in your story, and that is beautiful. And we have to bring both to the story, to share both like you did, because that's funny. And it makes us closer to you. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And I will be
Oh.
visiting your pajama website. I'm gonna click on your calendar soon because I think I'm gonna accidentally on purpose blah 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 to the world what you do. So back to you, Mary. Love you.
Thank you, Beth.
It's so funny. Loren, and then Mary.
Thanks, Genevieve. Thanks so much for the wonderful presentation. Um, I have a couple of stories that I tell that are personal for me, but one of the stories I often tell is about our founder and how he founded PCs for People. How do you feel about telling somebody else's story versus telling your own personal story?
I think there's a way to tell both, because something in your founder's story attracted you. And that leads you to sharing your story. So I think, and we can always talk offline if you are interested in brainstorming some ways, but absolutely both, absolutely both. And I don't know the specifics if you wanted to brainstorm ways to entwine them, but I think both. And your story, if you're talking, is equally important to attract the person standing there.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
That's
Hi,
good.
Mary.
Good morning, everyone, and hello to my friend Genevieve. I'm going back to Mary's remarks about crying. Many, many years ago, I was in a meeting and the speaker told us never to cry if we have something given to us, whatever, and not to cry if we want something. And, I kept that in my head for a long, long time, and I just wouldn't cry. And then I thought, no, that's an emotion that we need to share if we feel we need to share it. So that's just my 2 cents on the crying.
I'm with you.
I'm in agreement.
I have a couple more slides, and I want to talk about one thing in particular. So I hope you know I've been only trying to tell you that you have the power to move the world. And here's me crying. And other people will take note, and you could draw them in. You can literally feel, like I said, the quiet and the pain if you're sharing something painful. And also you can cry and shed a tear for being overjoyed about something that happened on the journey. But this is me often, and I'm an ugly crier, but I can tell you people feel it, and I'm grateful that I can inspire people to feel these days, and also be funny. Sometimes I dress up like Lucy, and it's just another outlet. Be funny, Alan. Be funny. Everybody, be funny. It's your whole person, and be relatable. Share a lesson you learned and a mistake you made, and I will share one here. I wanted to share one. So I often tell this story, and it's it's funny and it's uplifting and it's worrisome too. But during that initial 2008 recession, I mentioned it. I went to the board and I said, I don't know what to do. And I was, as we all are, as the founders and the leaders, feel the obligation to come up with the ideas in the darkest times. I had nothing. I had exhausted everything. Nothing was taking us, past the few dollars we had left in the bank. And that weight of the promise I made to that social worker, never to say I was coming back and never to not come back, that was weighing heavily on me. And I went to the board and I said, I don't know what to do. We can't close. We can't disappoint these children. It's everything. And I know you feel it too. I don't know what to do. And it was quiet. One board member, she's here in the green, I put her face on that picture. She said in that darkest moment, let's go bowling. Now, you can imagine I didn't think I heard her right. And my first impression was, she's not even taking this seriously. What the heck is she saying? And I was quiet. Everyone was quiet. And she said it again, let's go bowling. Now I'm thinking, sitting in New York City, does anybody in New York City bowl? And I did think, I have a friend in in Ohio. She bowls because I know that's where she takes me when I visit her. But this is New York City, I'm thinking. And I'm almost insulted that she thinks this is going to take us out of the red. But I kept my cool because I knew her heart was there and nobody else had any ideas, including me. And she said, come on, let's do a bowling fundraiser. And again, I thought, okay, what are we going to charge? $10 a person, $20 a person? We're not going to get enough money. But I had no idea. So I said, okay. And I remember I just said it quietly. I said, okay. And we put out notices and we sent out invitations on email and we charged a nominal amount. And the bowling alley was really nice about everything and put out some snacks. Well, let me tell you something. People came, they brought friends, and it was the best time any of us had had because in the recession, everyone was in a dark place and everyone needed to bowl. And I could never have imagined the joy that erupted in that room and the people listening to not only my story, but some of the other people's stories about being involved with our children and how it touched them. I could never have imagined the power of the emotion at that time in a bowling alley. People came out, they paid their $20, they knew it was going to a good cause, and they left telling everybody they knew about what fun they had. And did you know about this organization that gives pajamas to kids? It wasn't $1 million in cash, but it was $1 million in momentum and in inspiration for people to go out and tell people. And we made it through. And I will never forget, I never stopped thanking her for coming up with the idea. And I, of course, I later told her I thought it was crazy and I didn't know where she was getting it from, but she was inspired. And we all get that inspiration when our hearts are in whatever we're doing. And that was a lesson I learned, not to be so judgmental and also to lean on others and try something that someone else thinks is a good idea, even when you don't, because often I was wrong. Often you might be wrong. And often the best ideas come from somebody who never expect it. And the idea would be something you'd never expect, but trust. So again, just understand these three things. The world is driven by emotion and giving. People give when they feel that they want to, when they feel you've touched their heart, when they resonate with you. And the way you tell your story makes all the difference. Remember to where to pause, make a note of what people are connecting to, and have your short version and have your beautiful long version with aids. Do this. Take people from your journey's dark to the light. Make them feel the pain of the situation with those children, that they were sleeping in those clothes. They couldn't get comfortable. And it was really the love that we learned they were getting in those pajamas, not the material, but that gift of love. And let the people you're talking to understand that they can make a difference because it's the love they're giving them, and that the pair of pajamas are comfort and stability that they probably get. And I often say, are you a mom? Are you a grandma? Are you a dad? Are you a grandpa? You've probably put kids to sleep. And I try to, equate it, and they get it right away. So make them know that that difference they can make for a stranger, the way that they're giving love for their loved one. And your story and your message, and lots of people, the more you tell, will help you make an impact with the money you need and whatever products you need, whatever you need to get to serve as many people as you can. That'll come from you sharing your story. It'll get to the masses. And the number one lesson that you've probably learned by now, if you have already started your nonprofit, you will find out that it is not the power of one, not any of you, not me, that changes things. It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. And I realized that when someone has probably said to you, look how much you're doing. One person did this. No, I knew that wasn't right. And that's what tumbled out of my mouth. So I say this all the time now. It's not the power of one that changes things. It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. So that is my story on how I feel we can all enhance our stories to be as compelling as we possibly can make them be, because there's not enough emotion out there. It's all about love. It's all about connecting. And we were brave enough to follow our hearts. So I think as leaders, sharing that is a responsibility that we hold dear. Thank you for listening. Anybody else want to share or talk about what you are doing?
Yes.
Yes. I will pick on someone.
First, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing so much information. It was absolutely amazing. As you were talking the last part about allowing people, I think about our corporate sponsor that we just got in January. This gentleman saw me from a distance. So in September, I was at an event in San Antonio, Texas. And at our events, we have a booth set up where we engage with people and ask them, have they heard about the charity, and give them an opportunity to make a donation. When people understand that it's a cancer organization, oftentimes they then share their story. When they share their story, that's when all the tears happen. And so this gentleman, his name is Greg, he saw me from a distance praying with a lady. He didn't know the reasoning. All he knew is that the lady made a donation, and then we started talking, and then the next thing is I was hugging her and she was boo-hoo crying and I was praying. And what was going on at that moment is she had shared that the year before she had attended the event, but it was with her son, and her son had just passed away battling cancer. I didn't care about donation at that moment. I was like, let me love on you. Let me give you a hug, because I know what it's like. To have the battle, have the journey, and I just be loving people. And so Greg saw that from a distance. And when we finally let go, and I wiped tears, and she wiped tears, and we took a picture, and she walked off, he came over and he was like, I've never seen that happen before. What are you guys doing here? And I explained that we were raising money to help people battling cancer pay their bills while they go through treatment. And he was like, I never heard of that. I said, well, most people fund, cancer research, but we actually make certain that people get the help. And he was like, can we exchange contact information, and can we talk again? I did not know that he was going to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm going to be in Columbus, Ohio in 2 weeks. Do you think, are you going to be in Columbus? I'm like, well, I live in Columbus. So yeah, I'm going to be here. He flew his people into Columbus, and we sat down and had a conversation, and I just let them talk. And they just shared their story about how their families had been impacted by cancer. And each of them had their own situation. And I was like, wow. And they're like, so you've got us. We are 100% invested. Have you ever had a corporate sponsor? And I was like, no, because we hadn't. And he said, well, we've never been a corporate sponsor, but we want to be a corporate sponsor, and we want to be a corporate sponsor with you. Okay. I don't know what that looks like, but let us know, how it looks. And so since then, they're like, we have come up with fundraisers that we want to do to raise money for the nonprofit. We know what our travel schedule is. So we want, if there's any events that we're going to be at that you're not going to be at, we'd love to fly you in and have you speak. And I'm like, whoa. And so we never know, who's watching, because Greg is my bestie now. He goes to Hawaii often, and I think he needs somebody to travel with him.
Yeah, you're right. You never know. You never know. Anybody else have something to share before I pick on someone? All right, I'm going to pick on Leah, because Leah reached out to me. I don't know her very well, but we're getting together next week. Leah, tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, well, this is one of the things I need help with, because I feel like I could go on and on, and trying to decide what pieces of the story are the most impactful for people. So I'll try and be concise and not go all over the place. But I just started, and I say I, but it's obviously a team. Just took over a small jujitsu community in our small town. Um, the previous owner had a traumatic brain injury, and his family was no longer able to run the community. And this was something that my husband and I had dreamed about doing. We kept saying, we'll do that when we no longer need to make money. And we are very much in the position of, still working full time. But this opportunity came, and we've been involved with that community for several years and just couldn't let the gym go away. And my dream has been to have a nonprofit. Since I was in college, I was exposed to a foundation called the Junior Seau Foundation. I worked for Junior Seau, and it was the first time that I realized that you can bring a power of a community together to help impact people that they don't, have any relation with. And um, it was, it's been a dream of mine for a long time. But the financial limitations of needing to work and pay off student loans and everything has prevented me. So fast forward several years, I got exposed to jujitsu after a childhood of being bullied, a unhealthy, unsafe relationships, romantically, and jujitsu has basically helped me reparent myself, and be more confident in my abilities to just stand up straight. I feel like uh I can set boundaries with people. And it's it's just the resilience training has been super inspiring. And we've had this gym for a few months, and I've already seen kids who came in as, with bullying tendencies, who in this environment, very supportive, have completely changed the way that they're behaving around other people. And I've also seen kids who came in with zero confidence whatsoever. And even just last night, we have a kid who came up to me after class, and he said, "I got my first 2 submissions," and he's been there for 3 months, and he's just this little guy. And it overwhelms me with emotion, that we are impacting these kids' lives, and adults too. We have, several people basically reparenting themselves on the mat too, and being mentors for them. Um, and I want to make this community very stable and capable of making jujitsu accessible for as many people who want to be there.
And the part where you talk about when you were bullied, you just ran right over that. And that's the starting point. That's one of the early pieces that will connect you with other people. Because otherwise, until you got to that point, I don't know how much there is that people can relate to, but when you start talking about your vulnerability and your pain, and that's the dark, and how you said you stand tall, that's an incredible phrase too. So think about starting around that point on your purpose, and how you got there, and how you physically have been in this darkness, and how it's helped you. And you can't imagine letting other children feel the pain you felt, and you're trying to work out something for them, and at the same time, work it out in you. I mean, that's powerful stuff. Well, we could talk further, but that's what stopped me in your story when you said that you were bullied and that you now stand tall. I mean, that's great.
Yeah. I think I struggle with the expanding on the bullying because it was actually within my family. And I want to be, I don't want to out people who
Right. Right. A lot of people, right, who have the same experience with not wanting to out, and you don't. You don't have to. No one would want you to do that, but there are other ways to just make it personal because
Yeah.
so many people won't say out loud that they were bullied. I mean, I had this one year of being bullied by one girl, and I don't ever talk about it, but look, I just said it now because I related to what you said. It was not as bad as yours, but it hurt. It was awful. So you give permission to people to share their stories with you, just like Mary's people came over and mothers used to take me aside and say, you know, my child at bedtime is the only time he tells me the truth about what's going on at school. And the truth about what he's afraid of is that private comforting time because I'm sitting at his bedside at the end of the day. And I can't imagine the kids who are so afraid or alone, how they stay bottled up when they're so afraid. So yeah, people will relate to you and tell you stuff that they wouldn't tell anybody else.
Mhm.
And you are changing lives.
I have a question for Lee. So, have you officially started your nonprofit, or or you took over a nonprofit organization?
Well, so it wasn't a nonprofit before. We took over the space
Okay.
that they had.
So,
And
are you becoming a nonprofit?
so yeah, I filed the paperwork, a week after we started this. We got the call on Tuesday that the gym was closing, and then by Friday afternoon before they had their last class, we committed to starting this. And I was literally in the car driving 6 hours for my other job, in the car, like creating a logo, and so and
We
announcing
all
it.
know it well.
But so the paperwork is filed. I am impatiently waiting for it to be processed right now. So I'm in this spot of limbo right now where I'm just like, I feel like I'm in first gear trying to rev up the engine to get ready to try and, go out there. So far we've had some amazing response just from the local community, of people who have really stuck with this gym through the instability, of volunteer coaches trying to keep it, not knowing if the gym's going to open that day, whatever. And they've been really great. But we just we just got two black belt coaches who we've known. It's a small community, jujitsu, and it's amazing. It's going to just rocket launch the legitimacy of our program, to have them. And now I'm sweating because I've kept our financial liabilities very low, and now I've basically just doubled the monthly expenses by bringing them on. And even for it's still like such a low amount, in which they should be, compensated. But they believe in our mission and know us, and fortunately have given us their faith that we're going to figure it out. So that's what we're doing.
You will.
I love
And you
that. Well,
will.
the reason
Yeah.
I asked the question intentionally,
Yeah.
because as I was hearing you speak, I was like, I wonder if she's brand new. And so with the Charitable Roundtable, one of the things that we always look for is topics and subjects that we can actually give that will literally empower someone that's in the nonprofit space, whether they're pre-nonprofit, nonprofit, growing, develop, whatever degree. And so the reason that I asked is because of it's perfect segue into what's to come. Because in April, we have a series. We're doing something a little bit different. We're going to do a series about the formation, creation of nonprofits, the board development, board engagement, board cultivation, board cultivation, and all of those things. So that way, people that are in the nonprofit space can assess where they're at. Do you have a working board, or do you have a board that you cry over every night? And what the do's and don'ts of boardism, because there are definitely do's and don'ts. I can tell you so many. But the person that we have that's going to be speaking on this has literally about 50 years of combined experience. And it is going to be we said rather than just do a one and done, because it's such an important topic, we wanted to do a series on it. And so the fact that you're starting out, we didn't know you were coming, but it definitely will be a benefit for you. And I'm sure there's probably others as well that can, think about where they're at in their nonprofit space, because no nonprofit is perfect. We all got issues. We all have rooms for growth, or I shouldn't say issues. We all have opportunities for growth. And so I encourage you greatly to make sure to be here. Our presenter next month is Mr. Dean Pulliam, and he is on here today. And like I said, he comes with a wealth of information. And so in starting it, and then of course we have our expert in Genevieve, who has done it for 20 years. I've done it for almost 20, or no, she's 25 years. I've done it for 20 years. We have experience in what it takes to really be hands-on with the nonprofit. But as far as the importance of the board develop, all that kind of stuff, we have our understanding, but this is something that he specializes in. And so he's right over there. But yes, he's waving his hand. So like I said, perfect segue into that. So next month we will start our series. So if you know anybody in the nonprofit space, definitely we want to have them start, because the amount of information and content that's going to be given over the next couple months is going to be so critical. It will help literally any nonprofit that's in whatever space, help them to grow based off of from the governance aspect. Because one thing, and Dean, tell me if I'm saying it right, boards never die.
Boards are forever.
Boards are forever. Right. Boards are forever.
Which doesn't mean that the people are forever, but you need a
Correct.
board. Yes, yes. Let me just ask if there's anyone else who has a question about story. We didn't hear from Jean or Richard, I know, or Tammy or Amy. Anybody else before I just finish up?
Well, I'll share a little bit about our foundation.
Okay, great.
So we're Changing Lives Foundation, and we're based in Strongsville, Ohio, and we help people in US, Mexico, and Canada with a one-time financial grant. And we help people that are in catastrophic need, like house fire, sudden illness, car accident. And I will say that the work that we do, for me, I never intended to work for the foundation. I found myself volunteering more and more and more, and realized that it's my purpose. And talking about being emotional earlier, I am an emotional person, and I have cried on stage. I have cried on the news. And I'm okay with it. I think that someone shared earlier that someone had said not to cry. I think it's just like a matter of being authentic and just speaking from the heart, and whatever comes out, that's from the heart. But going back to the foundation, I found that it gave me, I found my purpose in life at age 50. And I'm like, wow, the second half of my life can actually matter to other people, and I could give them hope. And so that's why I'm working for the foundation now. And it's really amazing. We had a recent grant recipient that we helped that was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. We were able to help her through during the time of her treatment. And she's been in contact with me, and I've been in contact with her. And it's amazing because her treatment's working. And it's like a long-term impact that we can make on this person's life, that they don't have to worry about, whatever they needed to worry about financially during that time of their treatment. So, and I've been with the foundation for 2 years, but in the last year took over as the executive director. And I'm looking for opportunities to be able to talk about the mission, to raise money for the foundation, things like that. We have a lot of initiatives that we're working on that probably take too much time for me to go through here, but I'm just really proud of the foundation and being able to do something selfishly for me, my purpose, and giving people hope. My hope is to be the hope dealer in the world. And so
Tammy, you have to get with Mary. You have to get with Mary offline.
I have met with Mary. I
Yeah.
love Mary,
Yeah.
and she's absolutely amazing. The energy and a knowledge, 100%, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to ask Richard, who I know, Richard is has a different type of organization. Richard, can you just fill everyone in on a couple of minutes on yours?
Sure. Thank you. I apologize for having to step away from the meeting. But Jen, it was Kathy Williams, so I had to take the call. So I've started an organization called Science and Spirituality Institute. And our purpose is to promote a mutually affirming and an informative dialogue between the sciences and spiritualities, including religions like Christianity and Judaism and all the religions, but also people who are spiritual but not necessarily religious. And we're trying to do that through several different approaches. One is to have conferences. Our big success last year in the first year of the organization was we held a conference called Genetics and Spirituality, which was a one-day conference at the University of Nebraska Medical School. And it was well attended both in person and online. So that's an example of what we try to do. Also, I'm working on developing a podcast series. And in the podcast series, I will interview different people who have different takes or working in different areas of sort of the broad area of science and spirituality.
It's so amazing what different callings we have between illness and children and seniors and spirituality and science. It's amazing. It's an amazing array of people who are listening to their heart and trying to be a part of the making a difference for the better, bringing people together who might not be on the surface aligned. So thank you. Anything, Jean or Tammy or Amy, anybody else who didn't say? Francis, I know you're there too, but I know you're getting some work done. Anything else before we finish up the story piece? If everyone wants to brainstorm, my info's in the chat. So thank you everyone, and best of luck with your stories, and thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again, Genevieve. The information was just so on time, so timely. And then the questions that you asked as well. So this will not be the last time that you hear from Genevieve, because she is a wealth of information.
I'm looking forward to hearing Dean too. So that's next time.
Yes. So if you notice in the chat, there are the dates for the next 3 gatherings. So let me scroll up just a hot little second. And actually, I'll ask Crystal to share what the dates are.
Absolutely. So we Friday, April 11th, Friday, May the 9th, and Friday, June the 13th. So it's the second Friday of every month. You can just add it as a recurring date, and we'd love to have you come each time.
Thank you. So then we also have a survey. So one of the things that, as I alluded to in the beginning, oh, wait a minute. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Yeah, quick question. Will there be the topics of each of those 3 sessions published? Because I think some of them might be relevant to my role and some might not be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we always put the topic name and then the subject, but I can promise you, the fact that you do work with a nonprofit, there will be relevant information. Yes, we'll be talking about board governance, but there's also roles for people that work that volunteer, that do work that is important to know as well. And so, if the founders are unable to attend, definitely you want to plan to attend, so that way you can get the information as well. Okay. So thank you for that question. So we have a survey that we have. One of the things that we want to make sure that we continue to do is provide information that is relevant, beneficial, and empowering for those that are in the nonprofit space, entering in the nonprofit space, and then those that are friends of nonprofits. And so Crystal put the link in the chat. If you would please complete it. We're looking for information. We want to make sure that we're giving you what you need. And when I say you, the nonprofit, we want to give what it is, what you need. But then also, if you are someone that says, you know what, I want to be part of making that happen. I want to be part of the team because yeah, there's Frank. Yes, there's Mary. Yes, there's Genevieve. Yes, there's Crystal. Yes, there's Brian. Yes, there's Kurt. And yes, there's Emily. But there's room for you as well. Because the more people that we have going in the same direction, getting the word out, then what we got up to 17 people today, it could be 75 people next month by sharing. And so when you see the link, please complete the survey and provide that for us. I don't have anything else. Crystal, do you have anything? You're on mute.
Don't. Thank you, Genevieve. That was a great presentation. I really appreciated it, the points that you shared and just how simple or relatable you made it. So thank you so much for that. And I do want to say again, thank you to everyone that took the time to join us today, because it's always a privilege to learn about you and have you join us and see some of the things that together we can learn and connect and help each other as we make an impact in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And please, please, please share. People that those of us that are in the nonprofit space, we know other nonprofits. Let them know. Let them know. There are some people that provide business coaching, individual coaching, nonprofit coaching. Please let your nonprofits know. There are people that provide, help them get financing and do grant writing and all that stuff. Please let the nonprofits know, because this is a space where they can come in, rub elbows with other people that have been in the nonprofit space for years, as well as people that are coming up and new, people that we get to love on, like Tammy and Lee, to be 2 years old. Oh my God, I can't even remember. It's been so long. But there's a lot, or even to be 10 years old. We're getting ready to turn 20. Lord have mercy. It doesn't even seem like it. It seems like just yesterday. And so definitely share. With that, I want to say thank you. Everyone have an amazing rest of your Friday, the rest of your month, and we look forward to seeing you here again next month on the second Friday at 11:30 for the Charitable Roundtable. With that, God bless all of you, and I look forward to the next time.